It was such a pretty day out, I remember. And at that time, I was a sergeant with the 2nd Battalion Fire Chief, which I'm attached to, and I'm his eyes inside the buildings, and I'd be his aide, and I'd drive him, and then when we get there, I would go into the building and see what I had and report back to him, give him the progress. So that was my job at the time. So when that day on 9/11, we were in the office together, the chief and I, and we were watching the news and doing our morning reports. And of course, we see the fire in New York City and the high-rise fire. So it's the first tower, and we're like, wow, they got their hands full there. And, wow, it's going to be tough. That's going to be a tough job. So at that time, we were still watching it, and we see this other plane hit the second tower. And so we were like, oh boy. So we knew something was going on. The phone started ringing in the office. Like, did you just see that? And something's going on. And the next thing you know, the bells went off for a plane into the White House. So that took most of the fire companies that were downtown, because I was in a very tough neighborhood outside the downtown area. And so when the downtown area fire companies went to the White House for the plane into the White House, it kind of took all those companies downtown that normally would go to the Pentagon. So when that plane never really hit the White House, it went and hit the Pentagon instead. Those companies were already committed. Those fire companies were already committed to the White House, and they weren't going to leave. So that opened up the door for us to respond to the Pentagon. And so I was driving the chief over there with eight fire trucks behind me, because I knew where to go. I actually been to the Pentagon before. I knew what parking lot they wanted us to stage in. So the fire companies were following me. And the main freeway to get to Virginia, because the Pentagon is in Virginia, so it's right on the border, D.C. and Virginia. So we had to go into the freeway, and the freeway was a sight to see, because everybody was just stopped and out of their cars. So we're trying not to hit people on the way over to the Pentagon, which the amount of smoke coming out of the Pentagon, I just couldn't believe my eyes. It looked like the whole, southwest part of DC was on fire at the time. It was unbelievable what I was looking at. But I was trying not to hit people that were out of the cars and get to the freeway and get to the Pentagon. So we got over there and we met with their command post, and they said, we are pretty short right now. There were so many people injured outside the building. They were tending to the companies that could go inside for the interior attack were limited from Arlington. So we teamed up with Arlington, and we got the interior attack to start the rescue operations and start to hit the fire. While we were in there, we weren't in there, but it took us a while to get in there. There's the 5 rings of the Pentagon. So we come into the 1 quarter, and we actually entered to the C ring. That's where the plane actually stopped. There was a big hole in the wall, and we kind of crawled through there and got in there that way. But it took us a long time to get in there and start searching and trying to get to the fire. And at that time, they said to get out because another plane was inbound and it was going to hit us again. So we're all looking at each other going, we ain't getting out of here. So it was an eerie feeling at the time that we could be hit again. And we just stayed in place between the rings and just waited for this plane to come and hit us. And it was crazy. So it was, we're just looking at each other waiting to get demolished, right? So it never happened. We went back in and start firefighting again and trying to find people, and it happened again. Another plane was supposed to be inbound. We come to find out later that the transponders, possibly from our own jets to protect us, were not set properly, and they actually thought those were inbound planes, but they were actually our own jets. So it was, that's what I hear. So anyway, that was pretty tough to deal with, because I'm like, this is it, man. We could be all killed right now. So, but we finally got in there, and we kept pushing. Now they had a operations for our national security was ongoing there. They could not leave, so we had to protect part of the Pentagon in those areas that they were operating, and that that was given from command. So we were trying to push in there, protect them, and also look for people. And I'll be honest with you, we didn't find anybody alive. If you were out, if they were out, they were alive. If they were in, they were gone. And not to be graphic, but we were crawling through a lot of body parts and trying to get into those buildings, into those rooms. One room had people still around their desks, didn't even get a chance to move. They were incinerated right in there, right at the tables. People were blown. Yeah, it was very, very tough, but we pushed on. We knew what our mission was. And, that's where we were from the interior. We kept coming out, getting a new bottle, going back in. I mean, it was very, very tough and very exhausting, but we were pretty upset. When we finally got sent home to go to rehab, and I found out about the New York City. Okay, so I had a lot of friends in New York City fire. And when we were riding back on the bus to go to the rehab, somebody asked me, "Did you hear about New York?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I know, the towers got hit." And they said, "Yeah, they fell." I'm like, "What, pieces of the tower fell?" And they said, "No, they both fell completely. They collapsed completely." And I was just blown away. They didn't know those were going to collapse. They just did their job, just like I was doing. And I just hope people don't forget that. We put our lives on the line every time we go out the door, but no one expects to die like that. And it makes you angry. It makes you angry. And that's when it hit me the hardest, is when I knew. And I did know I had friends that died in that. So, and I also had a friend that survived.